Good morning, Kevin. How are you?
Hey, Kevin. Good morning, guys. It's a strange new world we're in, isn't
it? Yeah.
Quite different.
Somebody said that when they said gatherings of 50, Coach Saban will still be able to have a meeting with all his people, all his analysts and all that. Then they dropped it to 10, and that made him mad, Kevin, because he can't get them all in the room.
Now you can't even have a huddle.
Yeah, what is Coach Saban doing right now? This guy's worked his tail off. His wife's got him probably at home. I think for coaches, this is kind of a weird deal. They're never home this time of year. They're recruiting. They're getting ready for spring practice. These guys are out of the office. What do you think these guys are doing, Kevin?
I think a lot of people are trying to figure that out. You know, what do you do when your daily routine is completely disrupted, and you know you have such certainty in your life? And, you know, I get up at this time, I do this, I go there, I call this person, I go to this meeting. And now so much of that isn't happening. And the scary part is we don't know when that's going to return for us. We don't know when normalcy is coming back. And that includes for football. And while obviously a lot of people are hurting, losing the NCAA tournament, maybe losing spring sports, certainly for a short period of time. And it looks like, I know Conference USA canceled the rest of their spring sports. Other conferences have done that. The SEC is supposed to announce something today about the baseball tournament, although the LSU athletic director said yesterday that's going to be canceled, the SEC baseball tournament, something so many of us look forward to. But if you're a coach and you can't be around your assistants, you can't be around your players in spring practice, you're not going to have spring practice. So how do you prepare for a season that now you have to wonder, are you even going to have? Are we even going to have a college football season? I think that's something we have to start considering very seriously.
Yeah, Dad and I were talking the first segment. You know, coaches, those guys all at that last meeting on that Friday, they all leave for spring break. Then they're all going to go home. They can't come back here. So he's probably got, probably wants these guys to work out. Well, Savaresi's closed all the facilities at the high school, so they can't go back to the local high school. But I'm sure Coach is probably telling that position coach, hey, find somewhere in Montgomery where these guys can go and at least work out, do something. This kind of stuff is what will drive Coach Saban crazy.
Because you're right, Barry, especially for football players now this time of year. I mean, this is a time for them to get better physically, to improve mentally, to study the game, and obviously you can do a lot of mental work, but as far as physical, not everybody has a gym in their basement. Some people are fortunate enough to have workout equipment at home, or at least some things they can do some work with, but nothing to the extent that they're used to. They have first-class facilities there, obviously, that they have access to whenever they want, and now they don't. So what do you do? How do you stay in shape? Just to try to, again, these are world-class athletes we're talking about.
Yeah.
And so that throws a huge wrench into their daily lives.
Sure. Well,
I don't have anything. I think the biggest thing for me is exactly when it gets towards the end, what is the end? You say, I think it's time for us to start back, and all of a sudden comes back. So we got 3 cases here and 3 cases there. I don't know how you determine. I'm sure the doctors will give indication to the president and to the governors what to do. But the ending of it is, we don't know when it'll be, but it's a little bit confusing as to how it's going to end and what you base it on to end it.
That's the big unanswered question. That's the big mystery right now, because and what kind of, and we were just talking about this, what kind of condition are these guys going to be in? If you can't practice, if you can't do anything until, and hopefully you can in August, and based on what the president said yesterday, we don't know if this is going to be over in July or August, and what medical professionals are saying, from the World Health Organization to the CDC, there's no guarantee we're going to be back to normal for the fall semester at colleges and universities and high schools. And so how fair would it be to send those guys out there if if they're not in peak condition. That's why they couldn't push back the NCAA tournament and hope that this thing, before we knew as much as we know now, and hope that this thing would pass quickly in a month or so. Guys are going to go their separate ways. They're not practicing together. They're not even on campus, and some of the guys are hopefully going to be preparing for professional opportunities. So would they even be back? How do you have an NCAA basketball tournament in May or June when you don't have the same team you had in March for various reasons? And this is something. This just reinforces the importance of practice and how much lead time are you going to need. Even if it were the SEC baseball tournament, if it were still possible that they could play some SEC baseball and have a tournament at the end of May as they normally do, or have the College World Series in June as they normally do. Well, you can't just walk out there and start playing. You have to have prep time. You have to have practice time, and that's all going away now as everyone is sitting around trying to stay in shape. If you're an athlete, even if you're not, trying to get some exercise, but you doing it in small groups or on your own or with your family or at home. So it's just this is as the father of two teenage boys who are already suffering cabin fever, and they've only had one day off of school, and are concerned that they can't ask all their friends to come over and play basketball. And this is, I don't have any. Nobody has any answers, and that's what's really frightening. Is nobody seems to have any real answers.
That's one thing that frustrates me about Jay Billis. Like, he's always on the NCAA about they got to make a quick decision on this, and sometimes you got to think through things like the spring sports situation. I mean, they're pushing them on that. Are they going to give them the year back? I don't know if they can. I know they said they would, but they got to look at it, Kevin. What do they do? If you keep the seniors as seniors, the juniors as juniors, and the sophomores as sophomores, and the freshmen as freshmen, what do you do with the freshman class coming in? Now you backlog this thing. It's a bigger problem. I think people like Jay Billis pushing these guys to make a quick decision. Sometimes when you make a quick decision, you make mistakes. You got to have a little time to think things through. I just want to get your comment about the spring sports, and what do you do with that situation?
Well, and it's always easy, and I fall in that trap too. And it sounds like the fair thing to do, especially for the spring sports, because they had just they'd been playing for a while. If you're talking about softball and baseball, for example, let's just focus on those. They'd been playing. They were about to start conference play as far as baseball is concerned. So they missed a huge portion of their season. They're going to miss their conference championships, their national championships. They're going to miss a great chunk of their season. So yes, out of a sense of fairness, it seems and I've said it. Yeah, it'd be great for them to be able to come back and have another year of eligibility. But there are so many factors and so many details that go into making that work that you can't make a snap judgment. And the NCAA did say they're going to do that with the spring sports, I believe. But how's it going to work? As you said, you're going to have to first thing you're going to have to do is expand the roster sizes. You're going to have to expand the number of people you allow on scholarship. But where's the scholarship money going to come from? Remember, baseball only gets 11.7 scholarships to spread out among its roster.
Yeah, so if you were a parent and you pay for your son, and you're paying 60-70% of it, and he graduates, but he wants to come back and play his senior year. Well, we're going to have schoolwork to do. Are you going to drop another $30,000 for him just to come back and play his senior year, or will they say, well, he's already done his schooling, so he doesn't have to go to school, but he can play ball? I mean, I don't know how you determine what you can and what you can't do in this situation.
That's another huge factor in this. Most of these athletes are not on full scholarship in baseball, for example. And so, yes, you're paying out of your own pocket to go to school. So if you come back, you're still going to have, even if you may have graduated, you're going to have to either start another undergraduate degree or pursue a graduate degree. You're going to have to be a student also. You're going to have to be enrolled in school in a certain number of hours. That costs money. You're going to have to live somewhere. That costs money. You're going to have to eat. That costs money. you're not getting a full scholarship like a major college football or basketball player. So you may be paying, as you said, 60 or 70% of your total cost of being a student athlete. Can you afford that? So it's just not everybody would. While many people might want to do that, and I have no idea. It'd be interesting to know how many. And every student athlete situation would be different. Some would, of course, want to come back. Some would want to go on to professional careers, either in their sport or otherwise. So how many would want to come back, and would it be feasible? And again, when would you know? Well, you would have to set a deadline in terms of to know how many people you'd have on your roster, and then all of a sudden there's not going to be the playing time isn't going to change. There's still only 9 spots on the field, 10 with a DH, so you can only play so many players. So there are going to be a lot more players. If there are more players on the roster, there are more players sitting on the bench. So for coaches, how do you keep everybody happy in that situation? It's again, it's easy to say, a lot harder to put into motion.
Yesterday, Derrick Henry got the franchise tag. Maybe they'll try to sign him now to a long-term deal. But is that fair? Here, the quarterback gets over $100 million. Derrick Henry is the reason they were in the semifinals. There, if you're Derrick Henry, do you feel disrespected if you're representing him? If they just franchise tag you and give that quarterback who was just handing you the ball over $100 million, what are Derrick Henry's representatives saying right now?
That's a good question. He's certainly the most valuable player on that team, and the biggest reason why they advanced as far as they did in the playoffs, and the brightest spot they have moving forward to continue to do that, and maybe to push even further into the playoffs. So, look, everybody just accepts quarterbacks, whether they're playmakers or caretakers, are going to make the big bucks. It's just the way it is. It's the way that sport is set up. And I guess you learn to live with it. But yeah, as an agent, certainly you're making all those points that you just made, Barry. Look at how valuable he is to your team. Where would you be without him? You wouldn't have been, that close to getting to the Super Bowl. So I don't know how it works, but the best part about this is it just at least the NFL. At least all these NFL deals give us some actual sports to talk about.
Yeah.
Without actual sports to talk about, without actual games happening on the court, on the field, at least it brings a tiny sense of normalcy to us in a very abnormal time.
There's breaking news right now, Dad, that says Tom Brady will be leaving the Patriots. So really? I don't know where he's going. So
I thought maybe he might, after all that checking out money, might stay.
I don't know where he's going to go. Kevin, I want to ask you this. I know you're pretty close to the UAB program, and I don't know Rob Eson personally, and so I'm not sure about even how the program was going. But I do know they won some games. Then the conference tournament was taken away, and they made the change. This is my opinion. I think they feel like Andy Kennedy maybe is their guy. We'll see here in a few days, and they maybe felt like if we don't do something now, and then Andy may go somewhere else. Am I right or wrong? I guess time will tell. Was that fair, what happened with Rob Eson and UAB?
Well, you can say it was unfair because of the timing, because they didn't have a chance to make a run in the Conference USA tournament. They did win their first game before they shut the event down. But Rob's a great guy. I have gotten to know him since he's been here in Birmingham, first as an assistant to Jared Haas, and they did some really good things then. And then as a head coach, he had some issues to deal with, some restrictions, and all the focus on football since they brought football back has not helped UAB basketball. I'll say that. Now, but on the bottom line, they were just okay. And UAB's basketball history suggests that just okay is not okay, to borrow from the TV commercial. And if you're going 18-14 or 19-13 or 20, and he won 20 the last couple of years, but it was 20-14, 20-15, those kind of numbers. That's not exact, but those kind of numbers. And the worst thing of all, and you guys know this, that will get a coach in most situations is when people stop coming to the game, when they stop buying tickets, and when they stop showing up. And the attendance was just, it was embarrassing, frankly, for a Division I basketball program to have, with their kind of history in a city of this size, university of that size, to have that few people in the building. on a regular basis. People had just stopped showing up. They stopped supporting the program. And when that happens, and when you're a mediocre program in a mediocre conference, then that's when you start looking to find a new coach. And because of the circumstances that you said, you've got a former player in Andy Kennedy who had more success than I think a lot of people realize at Ole Miss, one of the most difficult places to win in the SEC. And he did a good job over a long period of time and did some really good things. Won an SEC tournament, for example. Won 20 games a bunch of times. He's got an enthusiasm about him. He's got an aggressive nature about him. Not to say that Rob Eason didn't have those things. He did. But Andy would rally the fan base. He would give them some instant name credibility. You know, Rob was a first-time head coach. No one knew him when he got here. And while he tried, I will say he made a great effort to get out in the community and to get out on campus and to be involved and to let people get to know him. He just doesn't have the long history with UAB that Andy Kennedy does. So yeah, it does seem like it's heading in that direction. The whole thing is going to be getting players, and they just hadn't gotten the kind of players that they needed to not only compete in that league. And Wimp, you always talk about expectations for coaches.
Yeah.
And that's what'll get you. Well, UAB has greater expectations than maybe they've had achievements for a long time. You know, they went to a bunch of NCAA tournaments back in the day. Then they've had good years on and off since. They had a great run under Mike Anderson back in the mid-2000s. They beat Kentucky in the NCAA tournament. They got to the NCAA tournament. They made a run in the NIT. They were very competitive with Memphis. And Mike Davis did some really good things there. Mike won the Conference USA Championship back in 2011. Got him to an NCAA tournament. But they didn't fulfill their expectations. Didn't, particularly in the postseason. Mike was really good in the regular season, but he struggled, especially in the Conference USA tournament. So, you know, you've got to meet expectations, or you're going to be in a tough spot. And that's really what got Rob Eason. He didn't meet expectations of that fan base, and they started to basically turn off the channel and not come to games. And that's why they're looking for a new coach. You could say it's not fair, but you have to perform as a coach. You have to deliver, and he didn't deliver the way they expected, or the way they should expect him, frankly, to be honest.
Sanford's open. I keep hearing Bucky McMillan's going there. Would that surprise you?
No, actually, someone suggested that to me a few weeks ago. Someone I was having lunch with who's pretty plugged in said, don't be surprised if, because things were going poorly for Scott Padgett there. He's in his sixth year. It just wasn't happening. And Sanford's you talk about expectations. You know, Sanford's had some, when John Brady was there with Jimmy Tollett as his assistant, and then Jimmy took over as head coach. They went to a couple NCAA tournaments back to back. They won conference championships. So Sanford hadn't met the expectations of what we know is possible at Sanford. And they have a new arena that they built, a very nice arena they built a few years ago. It wasn't happening, and someone said, don't be surprised if they make a run at Bucky McMillan. They seem to be interested. Is Bucky interested in making that move? Now would seem to be a good time. He's had an incredible run at Mountain Brook. Two really good players that he had over the last few years are gone. Obviously, Trendon Watford left after last year, went to LSU, and then Colby Jones is going to Xavier after this year, their best player this season. So it seems like a good time for that. If he wants to step into the college coaching arena, this would seem to be a good time, and Sanford might be the right place for him.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, Kevin, tell everybody about the Coach Safely. I guess my youth sports are down right now, but they'll get rolling again, and how they can find your stuff.
Yeah, that's the sad part. The Alabama Recreation and Parks Association, they had to cancel their state basketball tournament this past weekend in Trussville. This is a time of year when kids should be out on the baseball field, the softball field, should be in basketball gyms. They should be competing, and they're not because of this virus and the shutdown of sports. But we all know how important youth sports are, and it's also just as important that the coaches that are coaching them are trained to help coach them the right way, to help keep them safe, and that's what Coach Safely is all about. We provide a training course for coaches in this state. It's a law now. If you coach kids 14 and under, you've got to be trained in injury recognition and prevention, and Coach Safely provides a training course. It's free of charge through the Alabama Recreation and Parks Association, so check that out with your local ARPA representative. And now's a good time to get trained. We've all got a lot more free time on our hands. The course is available online. You don't have to travel. You don't have to be around groups of people. You can do it online, and you can get trained. So when you do get back out on the court or the field, you can coach those kids right and keep them safe.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you, guys.